Hey guys, your binos, they kind of stink. I bet you want some new ones. Vortex binos, guys. You want a set of Vortex binos, we're giving them away. All you gotta do is like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you're commenting on the videos. Make sure you're engaging with our videos. We're giving away binos every single month of the season, guys. So if you want free binos, you want some free optics, maybe we switch it up, we do something a little bit different, guys. At the end of the day, if you guys want some free stuff from Vortex, like, comment, subscribe. All right, guys, first and foremost, 'tis the season. It is booking season. This is the time of the year in which we are booking clients, and hopefully we're not booked tight at this point. But if you're looking to improve upon the hunting on your property, want to kill more bucks than your neighbors, pull the deer off your neighbor's property, food plots, learn more about food plotting, how to plant, what to plant, when to plant, where your tree stands need to go, where your trail cameras need to go. If you guys just aren't having success on a yearly basis and you're trying to improve, shoot me an email, whitetaillandmanagement@gmail.com, and we'll try and help you out, get you on the books, and make a visit to your property. All right, guys. Yeah, you didn't kill a buck yet. And here we are, late season, December. How do we get it done at this point? You know, you sat through the rut, you sat through the pre-rut, you sat early season, or maybe you didn't, and maybe you should have, and you didn't kill your buck yet. Let's be honest, guys. It's starting to get kind of tough. And especially if you do or don't have food plots, like there's scenarios there where it could be pretty tough. But there are some tactics that I love to use, and in fact, tactics that I've had a lot of success using in this quote-unquote late season. Now, deer are definitely slaves to their stomach, okay? So we need to be paying attention to these really frigid temperatures in December, and if we can hunt food sources, we should. But there's one tactic that I want to take a step back to first, and focus on even maybe more so than food at certain points of this month, you know, December. That secondary rut, guys. Here's the thing. A lot of times these does don't get bred because of a buck to doe imbalance or you know, herd ratio issue in that first rut. And so they come back into estrus again in December, and they will again in January, and they will continue to actually every month until they're bred. And that's why a lot of times we'll have these little tiny fawns, you know, late, or I should say, you know, during early season bow hunting and stuff like that. But that's one of those issues we'll run into in areas in which we're not managing the doe herd. So these deer are coming into estrus in December. And so it's like a secondary rut. Now, one of my biggest and baddest and best tactics that I'm going to use this time of year is I'm going to go around and I'm going to find the scrapes that are still being worked. Now, they're going to be few and far between. They're going to be about 20% of what they normally are. But if you can find them, that means that you have honed in on the area in which these deer are spending time and checking scrapes. And the point of these scrapes is just a social hub to come and check in on who's ready to be bred and who's not. There's actually this organ in the deer's mouth called the vomeronasal organ, okay? And this is used to test urine to ultimately just communicate and let these bucks know that, hey, this doe is ready, and so on and so forth. And that's what they're coming to these scrapes for and ultimately checking for. So how do you find these scrapes? Well, if I had to be honest with you guys, you know, it can be tough. It can be really tough, and you might have to put on a lot of miles, and you might just need to focus on even the licking branches to a certain extent and really pay attention to those branches that are nipped off and the leaves are gone now at this point. But otherwise, the leaves would have been, you know, brushed off of the end, and the leaves would be gone. Those are the things to look for. But where do you go to even find that, guys? Me personally, I'm focusing on one or two scrapes. You know, we can hunt the food source scrape. A lot of times in these pressured areas, those bucks aren't making it to it. But I'm trying to find the first scrape outside the bedroom. So let's say you got your food plot, guys, and you got your bedding area. Now, this first scrape outside the bedroom is generally within 70, 80 yards of that bedroom. Now, you got to know where the bedroom is. But if you do, that's the scrape that I'm hunting off wind, okay? If you know where he's eating and you know where he's sleeping, and you can hunt him in between on that first scrape outside the bed, guys, I think there's a damn good chance that you kill him there. So that secondary rut, you know, where these does come back into estrus in December, that's a great tactic to pay attention to. And hell, I've even used it in January and actually killed some bucks. Now, let's say you just can't find that. Well, now you need to find his food source. So I'm going to give you one food source that I would pay attention to. If I didn't have food plots, for me, that is red oaks. The red oak acorns, guys, oh my goodness. In the North Woods or wherever you have these, man, I've seen some crazy results from hunting over red oaks late season. I can think of a time I was hunting northern Wisconsin, and I walked into this public chunk of woods, and I looked around, and it looked like somebody planted turnips. Now, keep in mind, I'm in the woods. Nobody planted turnips. And you know what that looks like. You've either seen the videos online or you got a food plot yourself. Tore up and everything. And the leaves are everywhere. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Somebody's throwing corn down, aren't they? And I start walking around. I was like, oh, red oaks. This was a good bumper crop year, and those red oaks had rained down like crazy in this area. I had, like, I'm not lying to you, 10 Pope and Young bucks in an area in which Pope and Young bucks are like hard to come by, because this was the area in which those red oaks had dropped those acorns. So if you can find red oaks, you know, for late season, guys, it's a hell of a food source if you don't have food plots. Now, if you have food plots, guys, the single best thing that you could be doing and hunting over is mowed corn. Now, the crappy part is there's certain states out there where it's not considered a farming practice, and you can't mow your corn. You can't run it down with the four-wheeler. You can't do this. You can't do that. But if you can, guys, and you have planted corn, or you plan to plant corn in the future because your big bucks are showing up late season, mowed corn is by far and away like the #1 food source. Now, I love standing soybeans, and I'll do the beans and greens method, which we've talked about in the past, and I'll do the turnips, and I'll do the radishes, and I'll do all that good stuff, guys. But hell, if I have food plotting acreage and I'm planning on killing a late season buck, because bucks show up at that time of the year pretty consistently on this property or whatever else, I'm planning to have standing corn that I can mow where legal, to ultimately kill late season bucks. So the first thing that I'm focusing on is scraping activity, the secondary rut. The next thing in line would probably be those red oaks, and hell, that might even be on that private piece of property that you're hunting on food plot ground. And then obviously, if you have food plots, I wouldn't be afraid to be planting some corn in the future, or if you have corn, mowing that corn to ultimately bring in more of those deer, because those deer don't want to necessarily eat it off the cob quite as much as they do when it's on the ground, guys. So if you are still in the game and you have not killed your late season bucks, guys, those are the tactics that I would definitely focus on.